Hi, I'm Bob Midden, and I'm going to show you how to use the application Amazing Slowdowner to slow down tunes and to isolate a portion of a tune so that you can loop it and have it played repeatedly as you learn each part of the tune. The first step will be to import the audio file that you want to learn. You do that by clicking File at the top menu and selecting Open File, and then navigating to the location where the file is stored. And I'm going to use a recording of the red-haired lass, the red-haired lass that I made, that I played. And I'm already navigated to the location. Of course, you would navigate to the right location. I selected that tune and I'm clicking Open. So now this tune appears in my playlist here in Amazing Slowdowner. You'll see at the very bottom of the window the speed this is currently set at. Currently this is set to slow the speed of playback of this tune to 50%. Semitones means changing the pitch and by a certain amount, and currently this should be set to 0 semitones and 0 cents, and the mix is set to 0. The mix is the position in the left-right stereo spectrum. You're always going to want that, I think, right in the middle. Above this bottom indication of some of the parameters, the speed and pitch and mix, you can see the standard playback controls: play, pause, and stop. Above that is a bar that shows the cue, which means the position within this audio clip. Right now you can see it's located at the beginning. I can drag this to any point I want. Now it's at the very end. Now it's at about the middle. So that is how we can position playback at any point within the audio file. I already mentioned this is the position within the left-right stereo mix. Above that is the pitch. Normally you're going to want this set to the middle and to 0 as it is down below. Above that is the speed, and I'm going to change that to 100% by clicking right here in the middle. And above that is a bar that shows where playback is currently set to end within the audio file. And currently it's set to end at the very end of this audio file. Above that is a bar where you can name what is called a preset, which is simply a portion of the audio file that you create, which you can then loop for making it easier to learn. Above that is the bar where you can set the start position. And above that, you can see it marks the minute, seconds, and frame, which represent the start point. And we have similar indication for the end point here. And you can see currently the end point is set at 45 seconds and 61 frames. 61. That's simply a finer division of the position within the audio file, within the audio track, than seconds. It's like I don't know for sure what portion of time that actually represents, but it's a very small portion. So I'm going to demonstrate playing the audio track now, and I can do that by pressing the play button here or by pressing the space bar. Okay, and I pressed the space bar again. I have it set right now so that the space bar activates the pause button, and if I press the space bar again, it'll resume where it stopped. Okay, so that's the pause button. If you and to repeat, if you click the pause button or have your amazing slowdowner set so that the space bar activates the pause button, when you press the pause button first, it'll pause the playback. When you press it again, it will resume at the point where it stopped. If you instead start playing, press the stop button. Now you can't restart it by pressing the stop button. You have to press the play button. Every time you press the play button, it'll go back to the very beginning of the current setting. Okay, the current start and stop points. So now I'm going to show you how to slow down the speed. You can do that by dragging the speed marker to the left to slow it down, to the right to speed it up. And you can see the speed that I have it set at down at the bottom of this window. Currently it's 55.16%. If I know exactly what percent I want, I can simply double click that number and then enter the speed. I'm going to enter 50%. So that moves the marker to the 50% slowdown point. And now I'm going to play, and you'll hear how it's slowed down. Without changing the pitch. And now I'm going to show you how you can change the start point and the end point. For now, I'm not going to change the start point. I'm only going to change the end point. And I'm going to set the end point about halfway through the A part. And since this is a single reel, the A part is only 4 measures. So that'll be about a 2-measure portion of this tune. And so I'm going to start play. Okay. And I set the end point there, as I mentioned, at about the end of the second measure. So notice I have looping enabled by having this check mark next to the loop. And so what that means is it will repeat this until I stop it once I start playback. So I'm going to press play, and you'll hear that section. So notice you can have it continue to loop like this. You can listen until you feel you know it, and then you can play along with it. And then, of course, you could increase the speed as you learn it until you get it all the way to full speed. So that's how you set the endpoint. Notice what I did was while it was playing, I simply clicked that button at the point where I wanted it to stop. And if I didn't get it stopped at exactly the place I wanted, I could use these up and down arrow keys next to the frame, seconds, or minutes to adjust that endpoint to get it exactly where I wanted. Of course, if you are having trouble getting it set to exactly where you want, it might be worthwhile to slow the speed down even further, and that will make it easier to get that endpoint set just right. You can, of course, set the start point similarly. So as it's playing, you simply click the start button. If I want to change the endpoint now, I can drag the end point marker. I could drag it all the way to the end of the clip of the track. But before I do that, I'm going to save this clip. I'm going to do that by clicking where it says a preset comment. That opens this menu for storing a preset. I'm going to select where I want this stored. And now I'm going to select Store Preset. I actually had a preset stored for previously. And I'm going to call this A part first half. And I'm going to click OK. And now this clip is stored. I can change this endpoint and select this clip again, this preset, and notice it set the endpoint back to where it is in this clip. You can do the same thing for the start point as well as the end point. Okay, so that's how you can isolate a portion of the tune and then save it as a clip and then reload it after you quit Amazing Slow Downer. You could these clips will still exist, and you can always load the clip by simply selecting them. So I think you'll be able to, you'll see how you can use this quite effectively for learning traditional Irish tunes. I'm going to briefly point out a couple other things. If I click down here, you'll see there are several different types of slowdown. These are different algorithms the application uses. You can try different ones and see which ones happen to sound the best on your particular computer, given its power and capabilities. I have it set to slowdown type 4 right now, but you might find that slowdown type 5 or one of the others works better for you. Above that, you can also see that you can adjust the EQ. I would usually not adjust that. And you can also adjust the volume. And then one other thing I'll show you here in Amazing Slow Downer, in the Amazing Slow Downer menu at the top, you see there's a settings option. And I think the most useful settings are in the controls section. And here's where you can control what the space bar does when you press it. You can have it either toggle between pause and continue, which you might recall means that each time you press the space bar, it'll either pause playback or resume at the point where it was paused, or you can have it set so that it will stop and then resume play at the very beginning. You can also, to the right of that, set whether there's a delay before it begins playback, and if so, how many seconds that delay is. That can be useful if you need to get your instrument in place after you click the play button. And so, for instance, I play flute. It takes a moment for me after I click the play button for me to pick my flute up and get it next to my lips so I can play. So I have a little bit of a delay there. Down on the next level on the left, You can also notice, set a delay between loops each time it repeats the loop. I think these are the most useful settings. Notice you can also have it change the speed each time it repeats the loop or after a certain number of loops. So you could have it play the loop 5 times and then increase the speed by 5% or 10%, etc., and increment it only 1 time or 3 or 4 times. You could also have it change pitch at each new loop. So those can be useful features given your circumstances. All right, so that's all for now. I'm going to save this video for you and make it available.